Well, for many of us, Thanksgiving is about spending time with friends and family and stuffing our faces. But many others are lucky to eat it all on this long weekend. So the Good Shepherd here on Queen Street East, well, more than 1,300 people walk through those doors today just to get a hot meal. Tonight, we will be taking a look at poverty in Toronto through the eyes of one man who is living it right now. We're also going to find out what Toronto's top mayoral candidates plan to do about it.
You made a comment to me inside, just you don't really realize how many people are on the street until you're on the street.
Yeah, and I mean, once you're out there, you see everybody. And I mean, you see people sleeping on benches and parks all over the place. And I mean, there's probably, I've seen hundreds of them, like just in a matter of a couple of weeks. July 1st.
I took a walk with 51-year-old Darren Brace, a father of two who fell on hard times many years ago. The former truck driver developed a drug addiction that eventually led him to a tent in the Donlands.
I had my own place for a while, but it was a bad neighborhood with a lot of drugs, so I just decided to go and live on the street.
Would you rather live in a tent than in the city's shelter system?
Some of them, this place here, the Shepherd, is actually a good place. I mean, there's a lot of other shelters around where there's a lot of bad stuff happening in them. And I would rather live on the street.
Darren entered the drug program here at the Good Shepherd Center just 3 months ago and has so far stayed sober. But as he slowly picks up the pieces of his life, he worries about what will happen next. Is there a lack of services? Is it hard to find affordable housing?
Yeah, that's a big thing right now, is affordable housing.
The wait list for Toronto public housing is years long. Even a spot at a sober living center could take many months, if not longer. If you could talk to the mayor of Toronto, what would you say?
I don't know. I'd say if you could, build more shelters for people. Because, I mean, that's one thing they need out there now, that and affordable housing. Because that's a big difference. That's why there's a lot of people on the street these days.
As Toronto's top mayoral candidates spent the afternoon serving food to the homeless, we asked them about Darren's concerns and what they plan to do about poverty in our city.
Well, I have committed to ramping up our affordable rental housing targets to 40,000 over the next 12 years because that is something that we fell short on. Frankly, before I became mayor, there were targets set that weren't met for 6 years in a row.
There's one man I spoke with today, and he said there just isn't enough spaces open to provide proper services and shelter beds and things like that.
We've had a real challenge in front of us in terms of shelter beds because we've had upwards now of 45% of the shelter beds we have, 6,000 of them, 2,000 more than when I became mayor, but 45% are occupied by refugees. And that is something that will be a temporary state of affairs. I've asked for help from the federal government, received some help, not enough yet, to make sure that we can free up those spaces for people who are residents of Toronto who find themselves in need of shelter.
So my plan is about building 100,000 units of housing that families can afford in this city, and that's really going to happen by unlocking our city-owned lands. We can take the initiative on this as a city. This is something that we can fix. We can fix housing by using the land that we have in order to deliver a city where everyone has a home that they can afford.
For now, Darren will be staying here at the Good Shepherd as he finishes out the drug program. It's unclear what the future brings, but he says being back on the streets is not an option.
I mean, once you're out there, it's a little different. I mean, when you have a place and you're talking about going out there, I mean, it's a whole world of difference.
Now, here are some stats that will put Toronto's poverty problem into perspective. So the Daily Bread Food Bank recently reported just under 1 million client visits over a 1-year span. And in the last 3 months, 52% of those clients were forced to give up a meal to pay for something else, such as rent.